And good evening, everyone. Welcome to HackerTrail's third Tech 101 session. Thanks again for joining us tonight. I'm Edric, and I'll be hosting the session for tonight. We have a couple of minutes before we start the workshop, and I'd really like to take this opportunity for you to join the HackerTrail community. If you haven't already done so, scan the QR code that's on your screen or click the URL in the chat box below. By joining our community site, you're going to be able to connect with today's guest speaker and techies to discuss and collaborate to upgrade your tech career. You're going to also find some open positions offered by top companies such as EasyLink, StarHub, and TabSquare. So before we begin, let's start off with a fun fact related to software development. Well, did you know that the average age of a software developers in the United States is 32 years, while that of other professions are approximately 50 years old? This is a very interesting fact. Global employee satisfaction surveys that software developers in the gaming industry are the happiest. Well, if you play games all day, you'd probably enjoy yourself too, right? Now, globally, it's going to be reported that software developers spend half of their time learning a new skill, while others only spend about a third of their time. Willingness to learn is one of the most important criteria employers look out for when hiring software developers. So take note of these points, please, if you are very, very interested in heading over. Okay, so that being said, again, welcome to the third episode of Tech 101, a web engagement series that aims to help techies like yourself land their dream job and boost their tech careers. Through this series, you're going to be able to learn about the workings of various tech functions straight from industry experts and gain the opportunity to ask questions during our live Q&A session. For this session, we'll be having Ketan as our speaker to bring you through the software development industry insights. Now, I'd like to go through a couple of housekeeping notes before introducing you to our distinguished speaker today. If you have any questions for the speaker, type them into the chat box on the right-hand side. We'll be taking questions at the end of the session. There will be a Q&A allocated. Okay, if you're facing any technical issues, raise your hand. Well, you can switch on your camera and raise your hand if you want to, or easier, there's a hand button, as you know, in Zoom. Okay, raise your hand and send a message to my colleague Dinzar. As you can see, she might be above me, I don't know. Okay, and she'll attend to you as soon as she can. After the workshop, you can connect with other webinar participants and the guest speaker on HackerTrail community platform if you've already done it. Okay, so remember, scan the QR code or click that link, join the community. It's a trusted environment of techies who share firsthand experience, the do's and don'ts, so much more. Okay, so click on the link in the chat box and join the community right now. And while you're doing that, okay, I'm sure that some of you are joining right now. Before we start the session, let's do a quick poll to get a little understanding in who we have in the audience. Okay, poll 1, please. All right, you are interested in a career in software development because you are single, choice. Still in university, started an internship, junior developer, senior developer, or planning to switch domains. Now, do take a look, take note. All right, we've got a surprise for all of you today. A lucky participant is going to be able to get a free and exclusive coaching session with Ketan, right? All you need to do is make sure that you answer all the poll questions. The first one just finished, and make sure that you join the community, the HackerTrail community. All right. In this, you'll be able to get a one-on-one conversation to get all your questions answered by Ketan. Okay. Now, I believe that we should be getting some votes. All right. If you haven't, please do that right now so that you can get this one-on-one session. Okay. And also, it's also very interesting that we also know whether you are here. What are you really here for? Come to think of it. Okay. If you can, please do the vote, or if you can as well, type it into the chat. All right. If you are here as a junior developer, why are you here? Are you really here to find out more about software development, or is it because you're a fan of Ketan? There's got to be something, right? So if you can, type it in. Let's find out. Okay, let's take a minute to do that, because we really love to be able to get your feedback on how we could also bring you the speakers that are most relevant to you. Okay, so let's do that right now. And in 10 seconds, we will move on. Okay? And for those who have not joined, or just a reminder, all right, join the HackerTrail community. Click the link, scan the QR code if you can, if it's still there. All right, join the community, and you'll be very interested to see many, many, many of these articles that actually give you very good insights into how you could prepare for your interviews, how you're also able to find the right jobs, you know, what the portal is like, and also just basically helping each other out within the community. There are people there who are asking, you know, this, does anybody have this skill set? You know, so this is an opportunity for you to also get in touch with these people. All right, so let's move on. All right, thank you so much for your responses. I'm very, very, very excited now to introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Ketan Mujumdar, Director of Engineering at Carousel. Now, Ketan is currently working as Director of Engineering in Carousel, which is, of course, a very successful and popular startup company. He's got over 13 years of working experience in different industries. Before joining Carousel, he was leading IT projects in Zalora and MediaCorp. Ketan is well versed in multiple different softwares and has a proven track record in leading tech teams for IT and engineering projects. I'm sorry. Without further ado, welcome Ketan. Come on the stage on behalf of the audience and the team. Thanks again for joining us, and we are very excited to learn more from you about software development. Ketan, all yours.
Hey guys, how are you? Hi, I'm Ketan. Maybe you even want to go to the next slide. I want to give a bit of background about myself, what I am and what I do. Yeah, so I have 13 years of experience. I'll complete 14 soon. And I've been working in 8 years in advertisements and in and around advertisement. But I've done a wide variety of e-commerce. I've range of specifically working with CMS and a lot of other things. So I have different kind of experience, but I'm more inclined towards advertisement. We will discuss that later in few slides. I've been in Singapore about 9 years, coming 10 years soon. I love to code. I still try to keep coding whenever I do have time and I don't have back-to-back meeting. Try to solve some tickets of my engineers, hopefully not add more bugs than they have. All right, and I'm from Pune, India. I don't know if there are any people from there, so hi, and hi to everybody who's here. And hopefully there are many people who are excited and to understand what's there. And I'm here to understand what you want, and I don't want to just bore you with all my slides, and I don't want to just be a monotonous, and I want to be interactive. So I want to know what do you feel, what do you want from this presentation or webinar, and hopefully I can steer my presentation in that direction. So we will have a word cloud and try to give me your insight, what do you feel like and what do you want, probably 1 or 2 words inside that. Maybe you can pop the word cloud over there. All right, yeah. Please go to the link. Go to the link and type what you want from this seminar or what you want from this workshop, and maybe I'll change my presentation on the way and try to talk about that topic, because it's more important what you want. It's not important what I want. Please go to menti.com and put in the word. All right. Keep on coming, keep on coming. Let's give it a second and see. Keeping with the tech, surviving the tech, surviving the job, recent innovation. All right, trends, salary. All right, full stack or specialized. Okay, day in the life. You want my day in the life or in general software engineer day in the life? Okay, salary is the big one, huh?
I think that's the idea. Salary is the big one.
Of course,
I think
everybody.
Yes. That in itself tells you a lot.
There's few things I'll talk about in upcoming slides, specifically about salary. I'll touch upon the points, because okay, career development, all right, into tech sector, tech leadership, not burning out, managing time. All right, hiring for startup. Okay, that is one point we can discuss later in this, because okay, hiring good engineers. Okay, yeah, that is very important. Okay. These are a lot of good ones. Let me take a screenshot so that I won't forget. All right. Let's move on. I got to know. Let's move on to the next slide. Oh, so there are 3 things I'll majorly cover, but then I'll try to talk about these things which you guys said, specifically career development, keeping up, managing time, keeping up with the tech. That is very important. Changing domain. That is very important. Trends. That is one thing we'll talk about. So there are 3 things majorly I'll try to split into and try to keep this relevant to topics what you guys want. And specifically, majorly, initially the presentation was inclined towards, how do we survive and go through different stages and try to get it. But then now I feel like let's talk about, first part is how to get into the job, how to get a job, basically, right? No matter where you are, you have to go through an interview. And there's another one which is coming up, word cloud, which I want to know, what are your fears of talking about interviews, and what you feel like, the most scary thing about interviews? For me, it's the stress about how many rounds are there, and do I manage to get enough time, right? So let's quickly jump over to that and try to talk about those points, and hopefully I can steer there.
현주한테 파일 배우라고 시킨 사람이 바로 나거든. 내 밥줄 시키겠다고. 얘는 그냥 내가 시키는 대로 하다가 영어 툭 그러고 죽었어. 이게 진짜 진실이야. 알겠어?
I think somebody is again. Somebody unmute, please. Thank you. All right. So okay, questions. Miscommunication, pair programming. Okay. Questions asked. Solve algorithm questions. All right. Previous salary, lack of knowledge, too many technical requests. Coding test. Okay. Okay. Questions asked. Lack of knowledge. All right. Okay. Let's talk about these. So I had let's talk about what I had. Let me take a screenshot quickly, and let's talk about these also. All right, cool. So let's talk about these things, specifically talking about questions. So initially, I had slides which talk about in how do you introduce yourself, what is your dress code and stuff like. But that clearly is not the problem here, right? The problem is completely different, and I would like to steer my conversation towards that. So predominantly, one thing what I would say is a very important factor when you go to an interview is making sure that what role you're applying for, right? So the role is very important and very critical. And specifically, if you apply for a very high role, you for sure know that you cannot crack the interview, and that's something which you might mislead to. There are certain things which you definitely don't want to do in terms of putting yourself into a shock, saying that, oh, I don't know these questions, right? So that is one thing which is predominantly very much a problem, right? So I would say, in terms of while interviewing, what are the few things which is very important for any technical knowledge is to how do you introduce yourself, right? Anything which you go is, first thing is the confidence level you have. You need to have that confidence to make sure all. Oh, okay, the word cloud's gone. Anyways, it's fine, I have it. So in the interviews, the main thing what you want is confidence. You don't want to be an overpowering individual when you're going into an interview, right? You don't want to overpower an interviewer saying that, okay, I do this, I've done so much things, I've experienced in so many things, and you don't want to stretch too long. I have seen so many people, I've done so many interviews, I've taken so many interviews, and most of them stretch it way too long. And sometimes I get bored in the interview and saying that, okay, can you stop that? And of course I can't do that, right? But it's something which is very important and people don't try to understand. You have to be very precise in what you know. You write it down. It's similar to what everywhere it's asked. You just write it down, straight to the point, keep to the point, and shut it down, and then let's move to the next section, right? So that is very much precise to making sure that your confidence level does not drop. All these questions you asked are related, very much related. How do you start your interview, right? Because if your confidence is dropped, whether you know that answer, whether you can solve those algorithms, whether you know no particular thing or not, you will still have a problem going into interview, right? Because it's always anything, right? I don't know if you guys see Formula One. The start is the most important, right? If you screw up the start, everything, no matter how good as a driver you are, you will not be able to win the race, right? Going forward, same thing is the confidence, right? Confidence, I'm talking about confidence, making sure that you have the fundamentals are very strong, right? I'm not talking about particular question. I'm not talking about, okay, how to write any specific data structure, how to write about quicksort, okay? I'm not going to talk about, okay, I've given you 1,000 coins and what to do about that coins and which algorithm you want to put at, nothing. But you have to make sure that all your data structures and fundamentals and every basic thing of a computer engineering, no matter which language you have, even if it's JavaScript or any old language, C++ or C, doesn't matter. It's important is your fundamentals. No matter where I go, which level I am right now, even if no matter what happens, I still go back and read. That is very important for any level to go, to make sure that your fundamentals are strong and making sure that there are stronger depth to it, right? So you have a depth, and no matter where you go, which language you do, those fundamentals will always help you, because basic fundamentals of any computer engineering do not change at all. So very important, guys. Please make sure that your fundamentals are so strong. I've seen time and time out again in specifically taking interviews in Singapore, Taiwan, Indonesia, India, majorly specifically in Singapore, Taiwan, and Indonesia. I ask about very basic fundamental questions, and people can't answer those. And even if no matter how junior the role is, I will, usually interviewer will be like, in two minds, whether, okay, he has answered this question. Is it because he has done lead code, or he has done some kind of algorithm before and he knows this problem, or he actually has solved the problem over there? That is the fundamental question. If you want to crack the interview, you want to go into one step inside the level, right? Because that is something which is very critical in terms of understanding. And I would say, if you go back, register to some of the lead code or register to any of them, please make sure that try to solve the problem, right? Go solve it. I have a subscription. I still solve some problems whenever I get time. Honestly speaking, I've not solved in 2 months, but I still do. Maybe I'll try this weekend, right? Okay. Let me see if I have some of the questions I have answered, right? All right. Let's talk about, next slide. Let's talk about, okay, there's another thing which I do not find in the questions you guys asked, but this is very, very much I always feel, right? Always, whenever I ask a question, say, for example, okay, I'm taking a casual interview. It's 80% of the time people say, right? Okay, I ask them that, okay, have you seen casual website, or have you seen a casual app? And people will say yes, without thinking, of course, when you say yes, I'm going to ask questions about it, right? So people say yes, and then when I ask questions and cross question about it, they stumble upon and try to think in the past what they have seen it or something similar website, and it becomes very tricky. So interviews they've taken interviews for a long time, and I've taken interviews, and I can quickly say whether the person is lying or not, and without even thinking about it. So very important, very, very important. Be honest, straight to, okay, I've not seen it, I've not done it. It's not hard and fast rule that you have to see, or you have to see that particular website. It's good you see and find issues. You will have a higher band, so that you have already found issues without even asking for it. So that is very much important. Be honest, what you feel, no matter, no problem. I would also like to talk about, there are some too many theoretical questions, right? And types of questions. Okay, let's talk about that. I've not mentioned in my slides, but then, so theory, like I said, fundamentals is everything about theory, right? So fundamentals are very important. So is theory. So basically, people will ask about basic theory and how. Okay, for example, if an interviewer asks about, okay, you have Redis and you have to have multiple keys stored, and what algorithm you'll use. So what kind of hashing algorithm you'll use, basically. So you need to know, okay, if I have multiple Redises, that's by default needs to come in, right? So these are the theory. Okay, in theory, how many sockets are there in how many sockets I can open in a system, right? In theory, right? Of course, in practical, there are different problems. Some sockets are already open, preoccupied operating system, stuff like that. So in theory, all these things are very important. So most of the things what you're gonna focus on, or the role is focused on, you need to know that theory is very important, right? Another one which I see is, maybe in question and answer, we'll talk about this more, about miscommunications. I think that is where I would like to know from you guys, what you actually feel about miscommunication, what do you mean by miscommunication, and what do you want to know about it, right? Okay, solving algorithm questions, I've already answered that. Specifically, lead code, all the competitive programming, please solve as many problems as you have. I will give you my personal example. Okay, I will not say do it by yourself, but then what I do is I usually randomly go and pop in to an interview, to a probably a little bit junior than what I'm actually supposed to do, just to see where I am, or just to see what's my level at, right? Usually mostly I like to do technical rounds. There are some mock interviews you can do online, but then I usually do like a real interview. Sometimes, I've done that before with Carousel, and I took the job. But then usually it's more about what's my level and where I am at majorly. So that helps you to understand what is your level, and gets over your fear of interviews. I think that is more. My fear particularly is about the number of rounds nowadays in company has. It's been the last round, the Facebook round I quit in between, was about 7 rounds. I gave 5 rounds. I cleared 5 rounds, and I was like, okay, enough. I can't do anymore. So that's a little bit scary for me, but okay. Let's move on. So I think I've given quite some time about interviews. I think let's talk more about when actually you get into job. Okay, there's another word cloud coming up. This is very interesting. I like what you guys want. Hopefully I'm answering your questions along the way I'm going. So what do you expect, or what do you expect when you go to a first job? First time you enter your new job. It could be, could be experience, you could be new, you could be interning. What's your experience for the first job, right? All right, word cloud coming up. All right. Hopefully, guys, you have not slept yet. All right, yes. Confusion, okay, yeah. Social integration, scared. Right. Excited, nervous, unsure, understanding the domain, getting to know the project. Positive impression, nervousness, excitement, okay. Most people are excited, nice. Good to know. Want to know the culture. All right. Okay, know about culture. A lot of people are talking about culture. domain. Okay, understanding domain. Have meals with new colleague. Okay, farewell coffee. Positive impression. Okay. Okay, so this particular job thing I'm going to talk about in few parts, right? This will, okay, let me take a screenshot quickly. All right. All right, this job, let's move to, okay, let's move to the slides and let's talk about it. So I'm going to divide this into a few different topics. Predominantly, what you want to do to get a job, one thing, right? So specifically, okay, so this is very surprising, right? Many people, I mean, I've seen in the poll and previous HackerTrail guys tried to run some questions, and I've seen many people asking, what is software development? What is software development versus software engineering? And what people do, probably this is majorly for people who are interning, people who are just doing universities, of course. And it's a very confusing thing. And I also, when I was doing my university days, I was very confused about what to do and what people are doing, and I have no experience at all. But then the best thing, I mean, this is exactly what software engineers do, right? You're sitting in front of a monitor and trying to find a bug, which is like super tiny, or a super tiny mistake, compile issue, or you're the worst of all, debugging somebody else's code, right? That is the worst of all. It's always the legacy code which haunts you. And it's nothing to be scared of. It's just same thing. You're sitting on a computer trying to debug a long set of code, trying to refactor. All developers love refactoring. I don't know, you guys love it. I love refactoring. I like to say, even if it's written by me 1 month ago, and say, okay, what shit code is this? I will delete that and rewrite everything again, right? So that is how software development works, and that is how software development is. And there's no difference between software engineering and development. We call ourselves an engineer. So in Carousel, we are all our engineers, and we do software engineering, right? Moving on, the very first thing people who have already experienced, this is not for them. But this is very important for people who are in university or doing internship. Very important is to make sure that you have a very good company to work with, particularly the range, because when I was in university, I never got an internship experience. We never had this program of doing internship. Here in Singapore, I've been taking a lot of interns every year. We Carousel take a lot of interns every year and try to train them to make sure they are ready for the next level. And first thing which I feel very sad about is people do not really care about internship. They are just trying to do a tick mark in the university and say, okay, I've done the internship. But the most thing they miss about is what knowledge they gain on this. Is something most of the interns miss. And what we try to give in Carousel specifically is something not every company gives out, because most of the companies which my friends or my colleagues in other companies talk about is specifically, okay, interns, they get basic work, they get minor bug fixes, but then that's not helping for interns, right? What me specifically try to give, or Carousel specifically try to give, is to give a lot of features of a lot of development to make sure that you have that real world experience. You have that, it's the most important part of this. And then this is where you will get the next job, right? This is where you get the next job. All right, so very important. Make sure that you get a very good company. Try to get a company. Carousel is always up. All right. So this is something which is another important part is, somebody asks their manager. Yeah, exactly. So it's something which is called mentor. So sometimes your manager is your mentor. Sometimes you have a dedicated mentor to it. And you need to make sure that your mentor is very important. You have to choose your mentor. Everybody asks me, how do we, you can't choose your mentor, that's something, it's just not possible. But I disagree with it. I have done a lot of research when I'm joining some new company, right? So let's say when I was joining Carousel, I specifically, people don't ask in this, people don't ask enough, is who am I reporting to? Who am I reporting to? Or what's my hiring manager, or who would be my mentor? Because what happens is, if your mentor is not doing his job or his job correctly, or your manager is somewhere too busy and is not giving you enough time to invest or try to help you out or steer direction, you will fail. You will fail in that company. You will not enjoy the company. You will struggle a lot, and you will end up spending a lot more hours after hours trying to find a small problem. That is very important, to choose your mentor well. It is very, very critical. I will give you a very good example in the next slide, but right now, that is the most important. No matter what, you do your research on your LinkedIn, ask these questions while you're interviewing, and talk to your friends in other company and see about the manager's style. Does it fit you? That's a very important. I want to know my manager is he too micromanager? I would definitely not go into that company, or I don't like people micromanaging me. So something, that's what I want. So whether you want that or not, that is very important, very critical to it. All right, next one is specifically for junior engineers. Everybody who joins new and or want to do it, they're very afraid of doing mistakes or asking stupid questions. To be honest, I will say, doesn't matter whether junior or senior or whoever it is, it's okay to do mistakes. It's fine. Of course, there's a degree of mistakes, what you do. I'll give you my example, what I have done, but it's okay to do mistakes and ask stupid question. I always ask stupid question to my engineers, because I don't feel shy about me not knowing anything. Specifically, what I do is, okay, if I don't know something, I'll sit with my engineer and okay, explain me what you have done and I don't know, or I don't understand what's happening. So that is very, very critical. The one thing I would like to tell you is, in my early career, when I just started earlier, I did not have any mentor. I was the one who was doing everything. I just finished my university. I joined this company where I did my university project, and they hired me, and I started development. And no mentor, you always feel that you're the best. You're the best. You know everything, and you do everything. What you feel like. Doesn't matter whether it has security updates, doesn't matter what you're doing, how you're deploying, what are the best practices, you don't know. You just do what works. And once, while doing, I was working on production database, and it had 1.2 million entries, specifically on GPS and tracking, and I deleted the entire database. I was doing migrations and stuff like that. I was running on production, and I deleted 1.2 million entries altogether, and I was only able to recover 500,000 of it. I was lucky enough that I was not fired, but my manager was good, but I was lucky enough not to fire me. But then that's where I learned, and I know now till date, I make sure whenever I open my production database, it has a different color, it has full red, and I don't have any update rights. And that's my lesson. So it's very important. It's okay to do mistakes. I'm okay, because many of my interns, when I give them a feature or a feature to deploy in production, I know there would be bugs, but it's okay to do bugs, because that's where you learn. And as long as you're not repeating the mistake, that is the most important part you need to understand. It's okay to do mistake, but do not repeat the mistakes. Okay. Somebody, because I'm focusing on this because somebody said about manager and mistakes, I think. All right. Is there anything? Okay, let's move on. All right. When you go to a new job, of course, somebody said there's overwhelming, there's too understanding the domain, there are too many things, it's the social interaction, there's you're unsure about how things are, you don't know the culture. So it's okay to feel tired, it's okay to be overwhelmed, it's okay to be stressed, it's okay to be a little exhausted after your work, after a week, after a month, because when you're new in the company, you always have to put a little extra, and I always recommend you put a little extra. You show your manager that you're putting your hard work, you're trying to learn. Then your manager will understand that, okay, this guy is doing a lot more, and it's okay. Let him take some, take his own time, and he will not push you so much, right? So it's okay. I usually do this. I will push myself a little bit extra. I'll try to understand what's happening. I'll try to talk to people. It's very hard, in this day and age when everything is remote, and new guy, it's so difficult to fit in. It's so difficult to fit in. So it's a manager's job, or my job, or a team's job, to make sure that this guy is able to fit in that community online. We cannot meet online. I mean, you cannot meet, at least in Singapore, at least you can still go out and try to meet people who are vaccinated, but it's not as easy in other places. So I would recommend it's okay to get tired. put your extra effort, and try to make sure that you have learned a lot of things. And when you're exhausted, you feel tired, but keep in mind, you should feel and satisfaction that you have learned something. You should always feel the satisfaction that you have enjoyed this. You're enjoying that. If you're just tired, you're just being tired and just exhausted, that means you're not enjoying the work. And this is, you're exhausted just because it's too much of pressure, too much of work, not because you're enjoying it, right? So there is one blog which one of my interns is going to publish on Carousel's Medium publishing site, where he is going to talk about his journey, about how he got a Carousel, why he chose Carousel, and what his experience was, and how he was scared and afraid. And it is too real. Everything gets very real very fast for interns, because 3 months you have to do many things. You have to prove yourself. You have to learn things. You have to learn so many technology, and Carousel uses a ton of technology to understand, specifically on Kubernetes, on Golang, Python, Django. All the tech stack is so many things, but then it's okay. Right? Be honest with your manager, talk to your manager, and hopefully your manager should understand. All right, I hope I have covered all the points in the job. There are a few points about understanding the domain. I will cover that in a little later. All right, probably after the session, we'll talk about what are the problems, usually I face, or what you face in, being online, and, let's talk about that later. All right, going forward, let's talk about another word cloud, specifically about talking about domain switching, and whether it's important for you to be an expert in domain. All right, word cloud, please. I hope this is all relevant to you guys, and I'm not just blabbering by myself. I'm sorry I'm not able to get feedback here, but word cloud is able to give me feedback that is something I'm steering in the right direction. All right. Okay. Nice. Learn a lot. Knowledge. Mastery. Okay. Learning curve. Right. Need mentor. Okay. I'll give a few seconds. All right. Okay, let's move on. Let's move to slides. All right, let's talk about domain. And do you really need to know? Do you need to be an expert in a particular field, and then only you're able to succeed or thrive in it? Yeah, next slide, please. Right. So there are a few things everybody feels and talk about. It's a which domain I want to go in, and do I need a domain knowledge, and specifically do I need to have a wide variety, or just focus on one and just go on. So there are certain sectors which I feel that having a domain knowledge will help you in your progression and stuff like that. Specifically on banking and telecommunication, those are the only two things which I feel is better to have domain knowledge. Apart from that, I've kept ads in cybersecurity. It's yes and no. So it's not so straightforward as you see here. When I say e-commerce, it's okay to not have it. Travel and fintech, it's okay to not have. Yes, honestly, I've worked in e-commerce. I have worked in advertisement. I have worked in many different domains before. Specifically, but majority, of course, I'm biased towards ads, and I've been working in ads for a long time. But then it's not necessary that you cannot pick up things. If like, for example, I'll give you an example. For recently, I hired a backend engineer specifically for our complex advertisement, which we do in Carousel, specifically on Spotlight, and how our advertising work and how we want to do that. And he did not know a single thing about advertisement, and no terms. He does not know CTR, CHTR, CPM, CPC, all these fancy words, no idea about it. But what he was good at is logic. His fundamentals were clear, and he was very strong in delivering those things. He had a very clear understanding of what he wants to do, what he has done, and what he's capable of doing. So these are the things he clarified, and while interviewing him, he was very clear about what he wants and what he can do, and how fast he can cope up in trying to understand new technology. And I hired him, and he has now progressed from 2 levels, from SE2 to SSE2, and is thriving very hard, and he's enjoying the job. He's been there for 2 years now, and he knows much more than what I know also, right? So it's not critical for me, particularly for me and Carousel. It's not very important that to have a domain experience and domain knowledge. It's great you have that, but it's not mandatory. Banking, telecommunications specifically, because it's too much related, and it's everything is all banking sectors are similar, and it's easier. It gets very easy if you know that. I mean, if a couple of years ago, and a bank approached me for an interview specific, and I was able to get that, but then it's something which I did not like, but then I did not have any domain knowledge specifically bank, but I was able to crack that interview as well. So it's not necessary, but then it's better to, if you have that. And of course, first thing, you need to enjoy banking culture. You need to enjoy telecommunication culture. It's a very different culture than any startup here. So very important. All right. So also I want to talking about domain. It's very hard to predict what it would be in 5 years, right? What would be the domain knowledge you need to have in 5 years, right? When I was working on, when I started, it was specifically about GPS, and it was very much popular. And I started that. I didn't know, do I need to know about it, or is it something specific? And e-commerce was very beginning, it was just starting up. It was booming, and it was not so popular. And I didn't even know that whether should I do e-commerce, or whether it's going to be, or people will still go out and shop. That's something you don't know, and you can't predict. If you like something, it's fine to go into that deeper and try to make a career out of it and stick to it. But then what I would suggest is try to be up to date to the current trends, and don't think too much about what the market will change in the future. You focus on what you enjoy, what you like, and try to see whether you're going to find the same, whether you're going to like the same thing in 4 years time, right? When I joined Carousel, I didn't know I would like Carousel so much, or I would like working with Carousel so much. I've been here 4 years now, running 5th year. And so you don't know, but it's something which you have to experience, and you try doing it. Let's talk about cybersecurity, right? Does cybersecurity help for a software development? Specifically, I would say as a software developer, no matter if you're focusing on cybersecurity as a domain itself, but I would say you should know basic understanding about, cross-site scripting, DDoS, phishing, and all these things. Because right now, as me working on one of my team is security and user trust, I did not have much of a domain, but of course, I have to know all these things about cross-site scripting, DDoS, phishing, because these are the things which bigger companies usually face, and you have to be prepared for it, right? So it always helps to make sure that you have these kind of knowledge. Right. Let me just go through the cloud and see. All right. Yes. So I'll talk about learning curve, and specifically about talking about switching domains in the next slide. But before that, let me see if I've missed something. All right. That about it. Let's move to the next slide. Let's talk about switching domains. All right. It's switching domains is something, it's very difficult. Everybody talks about it. I want to switch domain, but I have seen, I've seen extreme switches in Carousel itself. I've seen extreme switches. A guy from finance is now doing data science for us. Of course, he was a mathematical graduate, but he was doing finance. But now he's doing data science. He's at a very senior role in doing data science. I have seen people from marketplace experience team moving to a product management role, right? So it's absolutely possible to switch domains in switching, but it's not easy at all. No matter which level you are, switching domain is not. It's much easier if you try to switch earlier in your career. That is much more easier. So let's talk about different types of domains. Let's talk about different types of domains, specifically talking about switching between same company. That's the easiest type of domain switch. So if I'm in the same company, let's say I'm doing software engineering and I'm in, let's say, 4 years of experience in my career, and I want to switch doing product management, right? Is it possible? It's certainly possible, but it's extremely difficult making sure that you have to be meeting expectation in your current domain, as well as you have to meet expectation in the new domain, because you want to switch the sites. I have seen this happening. People have to spend a lot of extra hours, to make sure that happens. But this is the most easiest type of domain switching. The most easiest, because it's not easy in terms of difficulty level, but then easy in the sense that's the best way to do it. Let's put it that way, because company allows it. You don't have to you don't have to quit and take try to find a role which is different. You don't have to learn different things. You can do it on job. You have a safety net. Your salary is coming in, and that is extremely important. But so that's the most best way to do it, but it's extremely difficult to achieve that. Another one is specifically for mid-career switches. I don't know if there are any mid-career switches here. Specifically when you're in the senior role and you want to switch, that is slightly tricky in terms of, because when you switch, let's say, from a senior software developer to product manager, you don't go to a senior product manager, you go to a product manager, you go one step below what you are. And that becomes very tricky, because you actually divert to slightly lower level than what you are, and which makes it even difficult. And when you quit and try to find a job, it's a big nightmare. My wife tried to switch recently, switch her domain, and it was a nightmare for her. She had to such a lot of extra effort and try to get to that new level, because she wants to switch. She wanted to switch from finance to L3 support analyst, and she was doing sort of support earlier, but then this is more technical, very technical, and she had to take a lot of effort. She had to give a lot of rounds to make sure to prove that she can do it. And she finally got that job, but then it is not easy. The most difficult is this. But there's another one which nobody talks about, is very important in your early career, is there are domain switching in terms of technical domain and non-technical domain, right? So one is specifically, like for me, I'm an engineering director. I'm not in a technical path per se. I'm majorly from people manager perspective. I'm majorly working with people. Of course, I have to deal with technology. I have to deal with decision making. I have to deal with all that stuff. But then my domain, I would say, it's a people manager, right? I'm a people manager, and there's a pure technical direction which goes to architect and chief architect, and that side, PSC and chief architect and other side. So that is another domain which nobody talks about, and it's very important. As what I do right now in my team specifically, I try to give every engineer an opportunity to step inside a manager's shoe, right? Try to give an exposure. Try to give an exposure to what a manager is and how it looks like, right? And that gives them an opportunity to say whether they really want to stick to a technical ladder or they want to move to manager. I've in my career, I've switched I've seen many people to move from tech to people manager side, or just stick to a technical ladder. All right, a lot about this. So in short, domain switching is possible, not easy. All right. Okay, let's moving on to the last slide. I feel that challenges and difficulty, I would rather discuss these things as a Q&A rather than me just answering these questions. I don't know whether this is really necessary. I would rather say, let's talk about the question answer, what they are, and then maybe I can address these as a part of it. All right, thank you so much.
All right. Hey, thanks so much, Ketan. I mean, that was great. Thanks so much again for sharing and making the presentation extremely understandable and interactive. Very, very entertaining as well with all the.
Thank you.
Sorry, is it GIFs or GIFs? Can somebody please educate me on this?
Guys, go ahead.
Somebody please educate me on this. I'm a bit of a boomer. Is it GIF with a G or GIF like a J?
Depends on whether you're American or Asian.
Really? Oh, well, tomatoes, tomatoes, right? Okay. In any case, we're moving on to the Q&A session. We've got a couple of questions here. One of them, okay, Ketan,
Yeah.
what are the top 3 things you look for when hiring a staff engineer?
Staff engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, staff engineer. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what do you mean by staff engineer.
I have
Can
no idea
somebody
either.
clarify that?
Yeah, kind of.
It's a senior
received that.
engineer. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
senior engineer. All right, all right. So what I look at is specifically one main thing is ability to lead a team, specifically ability to lead a project specifically. So my questions are around that. How would you take a lead in particular, architecting? And another one is what is the depth of an architect, right? Architecting certain things. So my classic go-to question is, design me a chat system, a modern chat system, right? So it's not an easy one at all to design it. And I just, based on seniority, I try to see how much understanding or how much level the person can understand, and try to put in the technology which is relevant to that chat system. So these are the 2 things which I feel are very important. The third one is probably the team, what do you say, communication with the team. So I like to have a senior engineer to be a very team player. I don't want to have a pure IC engineer who does not talk to the team and be pure by himself and does not care about what the team says, and he focus on his work. I don't like those guys, and I definitely have rejected many of them. Specifically, they say, okay, I want pure IC role, nothing else.
Okay. Thanks, Ketan. There's another. This is very interesting. Would you recommend becoming specialized in one domain, front end or back end, or become a full stack developer?
All right. Yeah, very good question. If you ask any engineer from Carousel, specifically backend engineer, they will say, no, I don't want to touch front end at all. And they love backend and they just want to focus on backend. But if my experience goes, I would say you should know front end enough so that you can at least try to do bug fixing, try to fix certain things. You don't need somebody else's help, and it always takes you a long way. Front end. But the problem with front end is, and it's every time, I've been a full stack engineer myself, and the problem with front end is like every freaking 2 months there's new technology, and that is the most daunting task, to make sure that stay up with the front end. So I would say just stick to basic of front end, try to make sure that if you can navigate the code and try to do it, focus more on backend, be very technical in backend, because there is a huge ladder in growth in terms of backend. But I would say being a full stack is the best option.
All right. That kind of transits to another question that we have about relevancy. How does one stay relevant as an engineering manager when you're no longer an IC?
Correct. Yeah, very important question. As being my engineering manager for so many years, so what I do is, this is very important. What I do is, recently there was a shift in a tech stack, and there was recently in terms of Kubernetes and stuff like that. So what I did was I'm very close to my engineers. I'm very close, and we go out for drinks. We play football and other things together. And what I do is I said, okay, hey guy, his name was Praveen. I said, okay, Praveen, I need your help. I want to help me out writing a microservice architecture, and let's work out together and tell me the new things which are there in what interest, because I did not attend a few technical meetings which were there because I was busy in working with the product or business and try to make sure that alignment is there. So I sat with them for a couple of weeks. I learned how to do it, how to do things. So once he told me how it is, I was able to navigate and try to get it. So don't be shy. Ask your engineers. Don't feel that you know the world of it, and it's okay. Be better to ask than just don't know about it and then make a fool out of yourself.
All right. Okay, there's a question over here in the chat box that says, how does one become a good interviewer? What homework should you do, right? Should an interviewer do before going for an interview? Now, for the guest who had placed this question in, could you please clarify whether or not this is an interviewer, as in you are hiring? Is this more of a hiring question? Do indicate that inside the chat, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. Okay, Ketan, future proofing. What tech stack should I learn to future proof myself for the next 5 years?
Okay, like I said, when I started, you'll be laughing at me. I was doing PHP majorly, right? The PHP, there was a front end and back end, and everything was on PHP. And PHP was big then. Facebook was predominantly on PHP, and it still is on most cases. But then, yeah, so that is the major thing. I would say, basically learn that language very well. Switching languages is just a matter of syntax, because everything else is the same. If you know object-oriented very well, object-oriented programming very well, you can easily switch to any other languages. And like when I started learning Go, I started learning Go when I came to Carousel, and it was not too difficult when I started picking up tasks and trying to. So the best way is go in, try to pick up any bug or smallest bug ticket, and try to fix it by yourself. You'll learn that language very fast.
Okay, Ketan, back to the interviewing question. Now, the question is about what homework the interviewer should do in order for them to get the right hire. So I think this is very, very relevant to those here, especially if you're looking for the job. It's good to know what kind of questions that they will be preparing for. So do listen in for this one. Ketan, all yours.
Right. So basically, interviewer, honestly, I don't do any kind of preparation or homework before it, because usually when you give when you take interviews so very often, I don't you usually are prepared, and okay, it's a front end guy what to ask, it's a back end guy what to ask. Majorly I do enjoy more in terms of technical questions. I do pop in technical. I have a list of technical questions I prepared. So, but I usually, for backend, it's back of mind, because I've majorly done backend, so it's back of my mind. So I would not say go prepared. Just if you're not confident of that domain, I would say just go through hard problems of harder interview questions. So like I do for iOS and Android. I'm not by myself. I don't know iOS and Android so much. So I usually go and Google the top interview questions and try to mix and match between them and try to ask, because fundamentals are same. It's just the syntactically different.
All right. So that means you give them tests along the way as well.
Yes.
Are there any other non-tangible factors that you're looking for? There's a great question here about first impressions. When they walk in the door or they switch on the camera, is there something that you look out for as well?
No, honestly, to be honest, technically, we are specifically doing in work from home. I tend to ignore all of these, even if some candidates say I can't turn on my camera, and I would say you should respect that, because you are actually in their home, and you should respect the privacy. If they feel like they're not comfortable, or there are people running around behind you, and it's a dire situation, and I would say no, first matter does not matter to me, and it's time and time out proved to me wrong that first impression does not matter. You give time, and also after, to be honest, interview is one part. Investing into that engineer after the interview is the most important part. You take care of that candidate as if you're the one who's trying to learn or do things. So that is the most important part, not the candidate or the first impression.
All right, thank you so much. Now, this is going to be the last question for the Q&A before we get the rest of the interactions through the HackerTrail community platform in itself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is one last question. Can someone move from full stack, from a senior position, to product management? Is that even a good decision?
All right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, you can. And good decision in sense. I would say if you enjoy doing that, right? If you enjoy doing that and you're really interested in product management, like one of my engineer who is working in my team is always been interested in product management, and is always being talking about how the product should shape and how the product ideas. He has written some PRDs in the past, and I said, okay, it's a logical choice that you've moved to product, because you're so much passionate about it. He was very good in tech, but he was so much passionate about the product and users and user problems. And if you are, go ahead and make sure you talk to your manager and see if you can switch. because switching from an engineer to a product in another company, it's very difficult or next to impossible unless you have some connections to try to get an interview first.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much again, Ketan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have some more questions, feel free to just throw them into the chat as we just go through the closing of this session. Any questions that have yet to be answered will be placed into the HackerTrail community platform. So again, feel free to just add them into the chat box right now. Don't waste the opportunity. All right. That being said, thank you to Ketan and everybody else here for participating today. Thank you to the team who has arranged this so nicely for everyone. It's a very, very insightful session. Personally, I've learned a lot, especially in this trade of tech, which I'm not in. So this has been great. Absolutely delightful session. Thanks again, Ketan, for that.
Thank you so much.
Before we wrap up, okay, let's take a minute to complete this short poll. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been here, do help us out. And if you haven't joined the HackerTrail community, do two things, okay? Join right now, and also please do this poll, okay? So we've got the question of what will be your next step after this session. Feel free to give us your feedback, because again, your feedback helps to determine how our content does, okay? We keep getting better when you give us this information, whether it's good or bad. You help us to improve, and we thank you for that. Thank you so much. Okay, and don't forget, if you do this poll, if you've done the first one as well, and you've joined the HackerTrail community, you will get an exclusive, or at least somebody's bound to win, an exclusive coaching session with Ketan to start his software development on the right foot. All right, and we're going to announce the winner on the community platform after the workshop. For those, again, if you have questions that haven't been answered during the session, it's going to be ported over to the community site. So remember to join so that you can get your answers as well. Okay.
Just one thing, just if you have anything, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn also if you want any questions to be answered directly. I don't know if I can place it here. So yeah, I mean, I can post it in my HackerTrail. All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. And lastly, to access HackerTrail's community site, please scan the QR code that you see on screen right now. All right. And it's going to take you to the page, or you could click the link that's provided in the chat box, and stay tuned for the details of our next session, and check out the website and social media pages for more information. All right. With that, now it's been Techo 101, and from here, from HackerTrail, I'm Edric. Thanks again, Ketan and the team. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. Stay safe. Have a great weekend ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye.